drug use is now the trust that we work so hard to build is being threatened. And hundreds of secure, specialized healthcare worker jobs will be lost, all because of this conservative government. We are watching a dangerous shift happening in how the media and our politicians talk about the ongoing toxic drug supply crisis across the stolen land called Canada. We're seeing mainstream media sources speculate on how forcing drug users into so-called treatment is really for their own good. Pushing for forced treatment while so many people willingly want to go to treatment and can't get in due to wait lists is cruelty in its purest form. This shows that any pretense of care or concern that these philosophies lay claim to is a lie. Language is a powerful thing. Polyethylene Ford continue to refer to people in possession of minuscule amounts of drugs as criminal people and dangerous to our children, and STSs as drug deaths. The conservatives are attempting to shape public opinion and to dehumanize those who will be targeted by these draconian proposed laws in such a way that the general public will accept this treatment. It's the same violent logic that Trump is using to justify mass deportation and unfathomable cruel detention centers by claiming the only people affected are criminals and murderers. The war on drug users is inherently tied to the rising power of far-right populism both here and in other countries. The ruling elites are actively promoting and funding narratives that encourage hatred toward immigrants, indigenous people, queer and trans people, drug users, and homeless people, among many others, because they benefit from giving us easy scapegoats to blame for the problems that they themselves have created. We know that poverty is on the rise and more visible than before. The backlash against drug users is an attempt to shift the blame away from the policymakers who truly are responsible. Despite what Ford and Jones say, heartless hubs will do nothing to fill the void left by shutting down these vital healthcare services. $529 million to rearrange partnerships that already exist, contributing no new housing or treatment beds, just pathways to be added to already active long wait lists. All this after Ford has spent our money to pay for 3 separate provincial investigations into STSs, all of which have found that we perform essential and life-saving work that needs to be expanded, and then spent more of our money to pay ex-flop private investigators to try to dig up the dirt. Site closures have nothing to do with children's safety, or with recovery, or with ending homelessness. Ford has already shown us what his actual plan is for our loved ones, with his pending bill to introduce $10,000 fines and 6-month jail sentences for public drug use, right after taking away some of the only services that actually decrease public drug use. Shame. Ford's wish for our community, just like Polyethylene, is driving people further into isolation, into cages, or to death. These shameful policies will go down in the history books, just like Reagan's response to the HIV/AIDS crisis of the 80s.
Can I get you down from the gas line,
Ford knows that dead people don't recover as well as we do. Dead people just get carried around in the hearts of everyone who loved them for the rest of our lives. Our hearts are all heavy enough. We're sick and tired of organizing memorials and going to funerals. We say enough is enough. I am one of countless people who can say with certainty that harm reduction saved my life. We call on Ford and Jones to get out of our way so we can keep our communities safe.
Thank you so much, Phoenix. I didn't introduce myself earlier. Hi, I'm Miss Watson. I'm with Toronto Indigenous Harm Reduction. I also work at an overdose prevention site, Street Health, and they're one of the sites that are slated to be open. And I know that with the closure of safe consumption sites in the neighborhood, that we're going to see an increase of people, and we're also going to be called to more overdoses outside. And as I do outreach in the community, I know that I'm going to come across more people in vulnerable situations, and the anticipation of that is really overwhelming. And so I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for showing your support today and coming to support us in the community and coming to support your loved ones and people who use drugs. I just wanted to say a few words while we wait on my sister Bree.
Indigenous lives, casualties that this country has deemed acceptable in its unrelenting rise to progress, industrial and carceral development, in the name of safety and security of whom? This is the NIMBY argument that is rooted in the neighborhood that I live in, and probably yours too. This is not an isolated phenomenon. This is the formative and fundamental principle of settler colonialism. This is the formative understanding and belief of Canada, that some lives are just worth less. White supremacy, racism, and settler colonization is how this land was settled. Through violence, systemic impoverishment, illness, and disease. The poisoning of grassy narrows, waterways, land, and people isn't the only poisoning happening. This is a country ravaged by a toxic drug supply, disproportionately impacting Indigenous people and impacting people from every single walk of life. Just this morning, seeing someone deceased, not even 2 blocks from my home. This crisis has claimed 2 members of my family and countless friends. As a drug poisoning crisis claims numerous lives every single day. The Ford government removing scientifically proven health services like safe consumption sites, and there's zero consultation with Indigenous communities. But that is actually very normal in this country. It is just another iteration of this country's so-called progress. Truly, the citizens of Canada have also deemed this acceptable. Satiated by their symbolic holidays and empty land acknowledgements, 2-dimensional reenactments of treaty partnerships and constitution, that this country literally wouldn't exist without the Constitution and Indigenous peoples' sovereignty and rights to the land. How can this country watch as your government steamroll Indigenous consultation, not as a one-off, but as a matter of national policy at every level of government, and still profess to stand with Indigenous people? Eugenics, the belief and practice that aims to improve the quality of human population, inhibiting the fertility of people and groups they consider inferior, and the medical neglect of lives they consider inferior has long been practiced in this country. Did you know that right here on this land, tens of thousands of Indigenous people, entire tribes, were wiped out because of illness, because of disease? And here we are again, with a public health crisis, exactly like the ones that our ancestors died from. Only the strong survive is the ideology that drives this country. But that is a very purposeful goal. I saw a quote that really drove it home for me. Human communities have kept the ill, infirm, injured, and aged members of their communities alive for the entire history of our existence. Parasite classes are only about 500 years old. I want to add that extending healthcare and wealth that we all enjoy is not saving people. It is simply the true face of justice in this country. Extending both of these things to people who use substances is as straightforward as affording this to Indigenous people in this country. But why is this so complicated? Why are we so far from this reality? This is the question we all have to ask ourselves as human beings. People who use substances can care for themselves. They are their own leaders. They have their own solutions, and they save lives more than any first responder, harm reduction worker, and anyone else in our community. This is who has the solutions. Justice for Indigenous people has never come at the hands of the state. Whether it is survivors of St. Anne's Residential School fighting for their stories and documents to come to light, whether it's Indigenous children stolen by child welfare, fighting for their justice in court. Whether it's Grassy Narrows, fighting for justice for mercury contamination. I'd like to share today that Toronto Indigenous Harm Reduction, because of everything that I've just said, has partnered with Aboriginal Legal Services to be an intervener within the TNG case. That we rely on legal experts in our community, Indigenous leaders, and we are the experts, and we are the people who use drugs, and we are the members of our community who live in our community who are going to be supporting them in that fight, in that legal fight. So like I said, none of this comes at the hands of the state. Every bit of justice that Indigenous people have had, including Indigenous people who use drugs and substances, has come because we have fought this country every step of the way, and this is no different. So, miigwech for everyone for being here today. Miigwech for everyone for listening. Nahau, miigwech.
Thank you so much, Bree. I just want to highlight that we're actually outside of the Ministry of Health right now. And one of the reasons that we're here today and the closures of the site is responsible Sylvia Jones. I also want to highlight that this is a joint effort across many cities. So today, in Barrie, in Guelph, in Hamilton, in Ottawa, in Timmins, and here in Toronto, people are taking to the streets to demand justice for their communities. We keep us safe. I also want to acknowledge that as of March 1st, these are the sites that are slated to be closed. So, you just heard our sister here talk about K-Mops and Kensington Market. They are responsible for the legal challenge against the province. They are slated to be closed. Toronto Public Health, the works, slated to be closed. Parkdale Queen West, across the street from my own house, slated to be closed. Regent Park, Bevel Up, slated to be closed. South Riverdale, slated to be closed. We know that these sites have saved thousands of lives. Every 2.5 hours in the province of Ontario, someone dies from a toxic drug supply. This is shameful. We must keep our voices, we must keep using our voices, and we must support people in our community who use drugs, who ultimately, as we heard our sister say, are going to be responsible for keeping themselves safe. Harm reduction is for drug users, by drug users. Harm reduction and safe consumption sites are rooted in evidence. It is a healthcare matter. This is our healthcare. And I also want to highlight that it is a human right. Safe consumption sites are a human right, and this is the argument that's leading the legal challenge on behalf of K-Mops. Indigenous people have the right to sovereignty and self-determination in their health care. I'm telling you that it's Indigenous people who are the main service users of safe consumption sites, not just in this city, but across the province. And we also must acknowledge that across Canada, harm reduction is under attack. We're seeing forced treatment. We're seeing people imprisoned and criminalized for their drug use. This is the ongoing settler colonial agenda, and this is keeping our people in cages. This is what this is. So I just want to invite my buddy here who's really good at chants to come up and do some chants with us.
Hi, my name is Marina. I want to hear you real loud so those pigs in the back get real scared, okay? So I'm going to say, when drug users are under attack, and you're going to say, stand up, fight back.
Who's been doing lots of work with us, and it's a pleasure to have him here today. Here for Thank you.
Thanks everyone. My name's Rithika Goel. I'm a family doctor. and I've been working in Toronto with people who use drugs for the past 15 years. But I couldn't agree more with everyone else who's spoken today that the real experts are people who use drugs. And that's who we need to be listening to. I'm here today because we are in a toxic drug crisis, an overdose epidemic which has taken the lives of too many people in this province, including too many that I have cared for. In this time of crisis, we need to be doing everything we can do to save lives and support people. We need easily accessible detoxes, rehabs, counseling, medications, primary care, and we need to keep people alive. That is what supervised consumption sites do. We lose one person every 2.5 hours in Ontario to an overdose, and the Ford government counts on us not caring about people who use drugs and people who die as a result of cruel policies. Shame. But I'm here today not only as a family doctor, I'm here first and foremost as a mother. I cannot even begin to imagine the pain of the loss of a child to an overdose, an entirely preventable occurrence. I refuse to let my children be used as a political pawn to harm people who use drugs. We're here to promise all mothers, all parents, and all the loved ones of people who have lost someone to an overdose that we will do everything in our power to fight like hell and keep people alive. We know from so much research that these sites work. A study out of the Lancet showed a 67% reduction in overdose deaths in the area around Toronto supervised consumption sites after they opened. 67% reduction in deaths. That is an incredible statistic for anything in healthcare. But instead of applauding these life-saving services, instead of expanding these life-saving services, the Ford government is shutting down 10 supervised consumption sites across the province and barring new services from providing life-saving needle distribution services. Shame indeed. These sites often provide what the rest of society does not, a safe haven, a place where you're treated with compassion, dignity, and humanity, and where not only do people help keep you alive, they also help you find whatever you need: wound care, counseling, housing, and so much more. But now, Guelph, Hamilton, Kitchener-Waterloo, Thunder Bay, Toronto, and Ottawa will see their sites close. Shame. And these communities are terrified of what will come next. Health providers are terrified we were turning back the clock to a time before naval exchange, where HIV and hepatitis C rates will skyrocket, and 911 calls and ER visits will further clog our already overburdened system. Business owners are worried about having to respond to overdoses in washrooms and hallways. Parents like myself are concerned that we will see our community members suffering in the streets and being pushed to unsafe situations like parks and washrooms. And of course, people who use drugs have been through this all. They feel once again that their lives don't matter and that they are disposable. So we are here together outside the Ministry of Health to say no to Premier Ford and Minister Sylvia Jones's cruel policies. We are coming together today with vigils in 6 cities across Ontario: Hamilton, Ottawa, Guelph, Barrie, Timmins, and Toronto, to say we will not take this lying down. We need our supervised consumption sites. So say it with me: save our sites! Harm reduction, when harm reduction is what we do every day in healthcare. Harm reduction is treating high blood pressure to prevent a stroke. Harm reduction is providing pap smears to prevent cervical cancer. And harm reduction is providing trained staff to supervise drug consumption to prevent overdose death. We know the science, we know the real life stories. Supervised consumption sites save lives and they keep all of us safer. We will not allow Ford to pit harm reduction against the rest of healthcare. Remember this on election day, and every day before, and every day after. We are not going away until we see this cruel decision reversed. We want to save our sites! Save our
I just want to acknowledge someone who couldn't be here today, but is someone that I really look up to and is a mentor to me. Their name is Sushi.
action for many, many, many years. And they're a person with lived experience. They're a person who uses safe consumption sites, and they're also a person who works at safe consumption sites. And even though they couldn't be here, I just want to acknowledge them and all the amazing things that they've done for this community, and all the soldiers and all the warriors and all the people who have been fighting this fight for a long time before I even knew what harm reduction was. And I just want to acknowledge all of those people. And those people are people who use drugs. These are healthcare professionals, and these are our heroes. These are the people that brought us all here together. So I just want to say miigwech to them. I just want to acknowledge that everyone here has also lost someone to the toxic drug supply. And if you haven't lost someone personally, then you've heard of someone else losing someone. The toxic drug supply has impacted in your life in one way or another, and it's about to get a whole lot worse. It'll get worse before it gets better. We have to keep fighting. And so I just want to invite everyone here to take a moment to call out the name of somebody that you've lost to a toxic drug supply. I'm going to start out with a good friend of mine who passed away a few months ago, and I was with him the night before when we were using drugs together. And I went home, and he didn't wake up the next morning. I just want to say, Lauren!
Buddy,
All your people.
Ellie!
Randy!
It's not just overdose that claims the lives of people who use drugs. There's, when you're on the streets, you're criminalized, you're judged, stigma, the war on the poor, homelessness, the cold, hunger, all of these things claim the lives of people who use drugs and people who live on the streets, people who are street involved. And all of these things together are weapons of the state. All of these things. So we're going to do some more chants. We're going to make some more noise. And then I would invite all of you to please come up and grab a coffee and a granola bar. We got them for you. Right, pretty much.
So my tears are powerful, so you're going to see them all. So awful for these lost loved ones. Shame. When I say they talk, you say we die. They are not standing up for our people. When I say no more, you say dead friends. No more!
Okay, did you want to do some drumming before we call it a day here? Can I have a friend hold the microphone?